I remember when this month first started, I thought it was going to be a bit of a quick one, but there was surprisingly a lot of perspectives that was brought up that give me a lot to think about. So the first one has to be what's called the hedonistic treadmill. It's the basic idea that if you're with something long enough, it stops being special. As a way to try to put this into perspective a little bit, so in my younger days, I used to do a whole lot of camping, and it was always weird whenever I brought somebody with me that didn't really know much about camping. For me, I was used to the piney smell, the numerous stars in the sky, the idea of camping out at a tent, being on a cot, air mattress, as well as just the simple pleasures of being out there in nature. This is something that I've gotten used to. So, as such, it's not really anything special anymore. It's something that is just a normal, everyday, well, not necessarily every day, but it's something that it's in the norm. It doesn't really seem all that out there. And in a bizarre way, that's how it feels transition. It's all about this idea that, well, maybe it's just all the gender swap stories that I was watching slash listening to in my egg days, but I always kind of pictured the idea of transitioning as not only instant, but the idea that just every single day you wake up as your preferred gender, you would just simply be in this ray of pure bliss. But after a while, it just stops becoming special and just starts becoming everyday life. Yeah, on the whole, my life is happier as a woman. But at the same time, I don't really wake up every day going, oh, thank you, I'm finally there. This is the most glorious day. No, it's just another day as a woman. I guess maybe another example to bring up as well is at a very young age, I had appendicitis. And as I got older, I realized how extensive the damage was. It ruptured, and they were taking blood out of me every day at the hospital for like the next week or so to make sure that the poison was out of my system. That was a life threatening disease. But yet, I don't really look at it and I'm just like, oh, I'm thankful to be alive. I'm thankful to be here. I'm just like, it's become normal. I hope this is making sense. Like, even I'm still trying to make sense of this. But this month, I heard about a lot of different terms for when the male sex organs are not sitting quite right. And the whole time I'm just like, wow, I am so thankful that I don't have to deal with that anymore. Like, ever heard of the term bat wings? I'll just have you look that up on your own time. But just kind of hearing that, I'm like, how in the world did I put up with that for so many years? It was just awful. I mean, I think maybe that was the thing. It's a lot of people are making comparisons to 1984 as of late, but one of the comparisons that I always see myself going back to is our main character. Unfortunately, I forget what his name is. He knew what life was like before the oppressive regime took over. The younger generation that grew up only in that oppressive regime, they only knew that life. They don't know what they're missing. And that's very much how it felt like with my life before transitioning, is the idea that I was raised under this oppressive regime. I didn't know life could get any better than this, and yeah, it does. And quite substantially, I might add. I also saw this review, which is an anime adaptation of one of my favorite manga. I think the official title is Onimai, I Am Now Your Sister. When I was reading it, the translation was Oni-chan is done for. So I'm not really sure which is the more proper title for it. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I talked about it in these reviews before, but the gist is basically our main character, Mahiro, he's, I think the term is a NEET, basically a basement dweller that hasn't left the house in 2 years. And his younger sister, well, this is one of the things I'm still trying to debate about, but basically her plan was to try to figure out how to be able to get him out of the basement. And how to do that was to transform him into a teenage girl. It's kind of one of those things where, like, I hear other people read it as the idea that the younger sister knew that the older brother, now sister, actually wanted to become a woman. I don't necessarily gel with that because, like, the first little bit, it seems very obvious that he liked being a girl, or at least he did at one point or another. But then as the story goes on, it feels more about the idea that he likes the life he has as a girl rather than being a girl. But wow, I'm really getting off track this episode. The main reason I bring it up is shortly after he's been transformed, maybe, I can't really say transitioned. It wasn't a gradual thing. He just woke up one day as a teenage girl. So he was very bashful, almost felt kind of shame about his newfound body. So he basically just didn't bathe for like a week until his older sister, a younger sister actually, turned older sister, is just like, look, you need to take a bath right now. And that scene really hits pretty hard for me, especially after I had bottom surgery. The idea that both of us were like, I know this is our body, but, well, this just seems wrong. I know for me personally, as well as probably for this character, was the first time seeing that part of the body, and there was kind of this idea of shame as well as bashfulness around it. And after a while, it just kind of becomes the norm. It's not so scary afterwards. Of course, I had to adapt to it pretty quickly because, well, let's just say the process of dilating, you get very familiar with that part of the body real quick. Another thing I've been trying to do lately is trying to harden myself against being triggered. And one of the ways I've been able to do that is by watching videos of people that are just like, ooh, trans people aren't real people and whatnot. And I think I've successfully gotten to the point whenever I hear such sentiments, instead of me going like, ooh, I hate you, you must pay for what you've said to me. Instead, it's more just kind of like, well, that's kind of depressing. The idea that people just kind of see me as a forgery, an imitation, trying to pass myself off as something that I am not. That's not really the point. I mean, maybe it is for some people, but that is definitely not the case for me. In fact, even when I really first started transitioning, I'm just kind of like, I'm fine if you see me as a man or use male pronouns. My main thing is I just couldn't stand what my body was doing to me anymore, and I wanted a female body, which I was in the process of getting at the time. But as I get further along, I'm just kind of like, you know, these pronouns don't really make any sense anymore, do they? Or maybe it was really just a combination of, like, now that I was given the option, that I just wanted to go for female pronouns. Of course, I also had to fight off a lot of years of, ooh, you swing like a girl. You're such a wimpy little girl. Hello, ladies. Can we get started with the gym exercise? It was all about the idea of just so many years of that being such an insult that felt weird to want to be called that. One of the videos specifically really kind of struck a chord with me, and one I'm still trying to figure out where I sit in terms of this, shall we say, debate. So I guess the first thing that really got off of my chest is the idea that, like, when it comes to trans athletes, it's not really an issue for me. I mean, it kind of is in principle, but I've just never been a big sports person. I mean, I don't understand why cities or numerous other places will get vandalized because a team didn't win. I'm just like, well, the sun's going to come up the next day, right? Why is this such the end of the world? But it really kind of went into the idea of, like, well, this person obviously saw trans women as just imitation men, and the idea that they're crashing into sacred women's spaces. Which it's one of those things where I'm like, just seems a little weird, the idea that it's all about feminism, and yet we're trying to crash it. But then again, I think it also kind of comes down to the idea that I see a trans woman as a woman rather than a man trying to sneak into a woman's bathroom or trying to get privileges that are only reserved towards women. Okay, I definitely figured out where my side of the argument is, and the idea, and that goes back to another video I remember seeing where it was this idea that it was a conference that was only allowed to women. So, a whole bunch of biological men just said, well, I identify as non-binary, I have to get in there, otherwise you're transphobic. And so, they were given the advantages that all these women were supposed to get, and the women there were absolutely furious because it's supposed to be a leg up for them and not a leg up to somebody who already has a leg up. I'm sorry, I just had to have that play on words. I guess maybe it also kind of goes into the idea of, like, the whole equality versus equity debate. Like, there is this picture I'll try to put up right here. See, in this picture, this is what equality looks like. Everybody gets the same amount, but yet it does different things for different people. And then this is what equity looks like. Okay, I mean, everybody is even. They're able to see the ball game all right. But the problem I have is this tall guy here. He's getting absolutely nothing, and he just has to be happy about that. I don't gel with that very much, especially when this little guy is getting everything. And then the guy in the middle, he's probably just like, well, I'm getting more than this guy, but, well, I wish I was getting that much as well. It is a very big debate that I definitely do not have the time to go into detail in this video, but once again, just kind of a food for thought. Ultimately, I think everybody should be seen as equal. Forget this whole affirmative action thing. Don't hire based off of race, based off of gender, based off of ethnicity, or based off of religion. If a candidate for the job is the best, who cares? So I've got two more things to mention in this video. The first one is what's known as egg culture, which it's one of those things where the more I think about it, the more counterproductive it seems in terms of trying to get some semblance of, I guess it'd be equality in this case. It's all about the idea that if a person doesn't 100% conform to gender norms, then they are an egg. They're just a trans person in denial. Meanwhile, there are some very manly men out there that have long hair. and yet nobody's questioning their gender identity. Or when it comes to the idea of tomboys, girls with a more boyish aesthetic. Well, this one is a little more contentious, as I think there are people that would call them trans men in denial, but I think there are just. I think there's probably more people out there that just see them as women that just like a different look. And personally, that is the look I can get behind. So, if it's all about the idea that, like, trans women are women and trans men are trans men, then, well, why do you have to keep pointing the fingers as to who may or may not be trans? I mean, basically, I'd say just treat them as. Now, this is where it gets complicated because I'd just be like, well, just go by what you think they are, but I've definitely seen some people get very, very bent out of shape whenever you misgender somebody, and I guess I'm kind of one of them. It's a very complicated thing, and it's not like you can wear like a little name tag here saying, hey, these are my pronouns and whatnot. I feel like it just kind of makes you a target for trolls and whatnot. And on top of that, if people are in a hurry, they're not going to be able to see it and read it. They're just going to be like, hey there. What am I even getting on track for? I guess really the main thing I'm just trying to say is the idea that, well, even if we go down to a biological level, nobody is 100% male and nobody is 100% female. Let's just take hormones, for instance. It's a mixture. Nobody has only testosterone in their system, and nobody has just estrogen in their system. It's all about which a person has more of, which generally dictates the gender. There is a lot of room for variety. I mean, take the idea of people that have transitioned to male but still like a female aesthetic, a trans femboy. And I'm sure by the extension we can also get trans tomboys as well. It's all about, well, at the end of the day, it's all about what you want. I mean, if anybody is pressuring you to transition for any reason, they are an awful person unless this is something that you want to do. But think very carefully about it. It's a very big decision, and make sure that you're the one making it. Of course, I guess this kind of goes back to a bit of another philosophical thing I saw a while ago. It was this video saying, do I really like coffee? It's all about the idea of, like, do you like what coffee does or what coffee is? Or is it perhaps you work in an office setting and it's kind of an ideal that you have to drink coffee? And I guess maybe for some way that could be considered as being trans as well. The idea that, like, you don't fit into a particular box, so you must be trans. And what I'm basically just trying to say is, no, that is not the case. Transitioning is all about what you want, what your end goal is, what you want to look like. And if you're fine with your body, but you just want to dress in more feminine or masculine clothes, nobody's stopping you. At least in this country, anyway. I found this interesting article, dissertation, vlog post. I'm not really sure what it would fit under, but it's called the Dysphoria Bible. And as you can probably tell from that title, it's all about, like, various forms of dysphoria and how to be able to combat such things. And I guess one thing that I found so fascinating is the idea that, like, how my life would have been if perhaps I could have just been treated as a girl without transitioning. Like, if I was in a relationship, and if somebody gave me the option that they were just like, so do you want to be loved as a boy or a girl? Well, depending on how much courage I had at the time, I would have loved to have said girl, and then I could just be treated as a woman. It's kind of that idea of like how people see you and how you see yourself can really give you quite a different outlook on the world. And I did say that I was going to talk about two things, but this last one just feels a little too important to overlook. I guess it's no mystery at this point that there's been a lot of talk about censorship on the internet. The idea that things could be separated into compartments, compartmentalized, something like that, by different countries. I think really the main thing that's kind of scary about this is the idea of censorship. Who is the one dictating what is the moral right and what is the moral wrong? Will I even be allowed to make such videos like this? Will they be censored? Or rather, would there be some sort of exterior force making my life miserable until I censor? That is the question. And that's probably what makes me the most nervous about this. We are only talking about the internet, and from what I've been able to tell, emotions run a lot higher on the internet. I feel like the average person doesn't really dole out death threats in the real world so much as in the digital world. At least, I hope. Once again, this is just kind of a food for thought, as I really don't know if there's any way to be able to combat such things. The only way that it would be possible is to make it so big companies or maybe even governments behind this would be losing more money by keeping things uncensored than if things were being censored. But I'm not really sure if I see that happening, especially with certain topics just being illegal to talk about, and very important topics at that. Take the idea of suicide prevention. If I was monetized, I could not use the word suicide. I would have to go for something else. Most people go for the term unalive. I'm a bit old-fashioned, so I'd rather go with the term hara-kiri. That's how they used to say back in the 60s. It's a very important issue, but yet no one is allowed to talk about it because it is not advertiser friendly. I think I'll end my video there. So if there's anything you would like to talk about that is not politics, feel free to leave a comment down below. And until next time, be yourself, no matter who that is.